How's it going, everybody? So today I'm here to talk about the good and the bad of dopamine. Dopamine is a very ironic chemical. Can you guess why? Because it's a feel-good chemical, but it can cause bad things to happen. My name is Michael, and today I am going to talk to you about dopamine. Have you ever had a craving for something like McDonald's or ice cream? Maybe it was something like nicotine or something even harder. This is due to dopamine. It's a chemical in your brain that makes you feel good and makes you want to feel that feeling again. I speak on this topic due to my major in psychology. I'm almost finished. I have one semester left. I've also had problems with addiction in the past. And nicotine addiction and other things that are less harmful, like caffeine, that kind of stuff, exercise. So in the next few minutes, I will be talking to you about what dopamine is, and then I will be talking to you about the good about dopamine, and then I will be talking about the bad about dopamine. So I'm first going to talk to you about what dopamine actually is, and maybe you can take your own opinion about it. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and when signaled, it attaches to the cells in your brain, creating a positive charge. And when this happens to a group of cells, a portion of your brain is lit up like a Christmas tree. And this positive charge, all those Christmas lights, are the cause for that feel-good sensation you get whenever you eat something good or something you want. So to make this a little easier to understand, I'll use Pavlov's dog. Pavlov, if some of you don't know him, was a psychologist researcher who discovered something called classical conditioning. When you ring a bell and you feed your dog numerous times, he will start to salivate even when he just hears the bell. And that's due to dopamine. He's wanting to receive that reward again, and the bell is a trigger to know that that reward is coming. For my personal experience, dopamine was triggered for a lot of things, but the main one that I had a problem with was nicotine. When I first started, it was just for fun. It turned into an addiction because when I didn't hit it within a certain amount of time, dopamine would be released, and it would make me want to feel that feeling again. And when I wouldn't within a certain amount of time, those cells would start to die, and that's where withdrawal comes and stuff like that. When researching this topic, I found that drug users get a highly active extracellular secretion of dopamine, creating a more intense feeling, which makes it a lot harder to get off of. So for drug abusers, it's 100 times harder than for someone who's addicted to food or that kind of stuff. That was by Volkow in 2008. Okay, so with dopamine, we get cravings, stuff like nicotine, we get addiction. The girl loves the burger, and she's going to want to try that burger again. Okay, so the good about dopamine. So what's good about dopamine is it helps us to survive. Dopamine is a leading neurotransmitter found in conditioning, which helps us to learn as we grow up and go through life. So in survival, when we see something and it bites us, we will remember to avoid that thing because the neurotransmitter is epinephrine that causes adrenaline. But when we eat something that's super good and healthy for us and we like it, we also remember that it was good through dopamine. When I was in high school, I was playing a soccer game against our rivals, and I ended up playing great, and I scored the winning goal, and that feeling was just amazing. So every time before a game now, I revisit that same feeling so I can get hyped and get ready for my game, and that dopamine is firing, and I'm trying to access that reward again. Recent studies have shown that dopamine is one of the lead causes of motivation and learning, which are two very important and good aspects of our lives. And that was by Burke in 2018. So now that you know about the good, let's talk about the bad. Oh, I messed up there. Survival, learning, and conditioning. And then that's the Pavlov's dog salivating. Sorry about that. So, what makes dopamine bad? Addiction and drugs. Through my research, I found that dopamine isn't the bad thing, it's the drugs that are the bad things. Because in normal learning, dopamine is extracellular, making it an even more intense expectation of reward. Although dopamine is the main ingredient in addiction and the intakes of drugs, it's actually the drug into your brain that causes the dopamine to fire. So it's the drug that's doing the bad thing, and dopamine is just doing its job. So I found that dopamine isn't good or bad, but the choices are. And now I hope this will show you that we aren't invincible, and it's actually a chemical change in your brain. I always thought that I was invincible and that I could get off of it whenever I wanted to, but I didn't know that it was chemicals in your brain and we have no control over that. In a study I read when researching, I found that dopamine causes more of a wanting than a liking. This tells me that it's not our choice. Once dopamine is linked to a reward, there is a wanting for it, a need for it. And it's not just a liking, but it's something we really, really want. So that was a brief look at the bad about dopamine. So I hope that you're able to take away something new about dopamine and you can form your own opinion now. Today I covered what dopamine is, which is a neurotransmitter, and it causes a positive charge in your brain, which causes that feel-good sensation. I talked about the good with classical conditioning and Pavlov's dog, and I also talked about the bad about it with addiction and drugs. So now that we know what dopamine is as a drug, this is hard to control, and the only way to control it is to recognize that it's there. We can control it using our choices and learn to make the right choices. We can use dopamine for good by getting addicted to good things instead of bad things. So we can get addicted to exercise, good healthy foods, and in order to control the bad, we have to make this information we learned today come to use and use it to our advantage. So I really appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in and listening to my speech. Have a good one.